Welcome to part 4 of Business Studies. Today we will be looking at the next part of the Skills Development Act. So first of all, it's been a while, so I just want to go back to the Skills Development Act and tell you the different topics that we will be learning under the Skills Development Act, the things you need to know. So far, we've covered the purpose and the nature in the previous parts of the business studies lessons. We've covered the roles of SETAs. We've covered the impact of SETAs on business. We still have to cover the skills development levy, the impact of the skills development on large and small businesses, compliance and non-compliance with the Skills Development Act, the National Skills Development Strategy, and the Human Resources Development Strategy. So these are the topics that we'll still need to cover under the Skills Development Act. Don't be afraid when you see that it's a lot of topics and it's a whole lot of information. All you need to do is break it down. If you do not understand something, break it down. Break it down, put it into your own words, and make sure you understand it. And then it will become easier for you to study. So let's go. Today we will be covering compliance and non-compliance. So we ask ourselves the question, how can a business, let me just adjust so you guys can see, comply with the SDA? So what are the factors that make it possible for a business to comply with the Skills Development Act? Number 1, a business should register with SARS. Number 2, employees need to be registered with SARS in order for a business to claim back after training. So employees must also be registered with SARS. Number 3, a business must register with the relevant SETAs. Register with relevant SETAs. Number 4, the skills development levy must be paid. Number 5, all employees should receive opportunity to improve their skills. Opportunity for skills improvement must be made by the business. Number 6, motivate or encourage employees to participate in learnerships and training programs. Number 7, if a business has 50 or more employees, it must have a skills development facilitator. Now, a skills development facilitator, I'm going to explain these terms to you separately, probably in another lesson, or maybe in this lesson I will just cover it after I'm done, so you guys understand and you become familiar with the terms that we're dealing with. So if a company has 50 employees or more, they must appoint a skills development facilitator. I'll tell you the responsibilities of this person when I'm explaining the terms you need to be familiar with when it comes to the Skills Development Act. Number 8 of how a business can comply with the Skills Development Act. A business needs to take a look at its employees' skills, so they can determine where it's necessary for skills to be developed. Okay, I've just given you explanations in very short terms here, but if you're listening to what I'm saying, you'll be able to, you can write it down in your own words and you'll be able to understand. Okay, so before we go to those terms, let's go. So these are all the ways a business can comply with the Skills Development Act. Now we're going to look at the ways and what happens if a business does not comply with the Skills Development Act. So we're going to say, what happens, can you guys see, if a business does not comply with the Skills Development Act? So what are the consequences? What can happen if a business does not comply? Let's first look at some of the ways that a business won't comply or does not comply with the SDA. So if a business does not pay levies,